Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. It started off with what could have been some devastating news for the sport, as Estrada tested positive and the fight against Chocolatito had to be postponed for a third time. This was the highly anticipated third installment, of course, in their terrific rivalry. But Eddie Hearn would not be deterred. He got on the phone with a whole bunch of people, started his wheeling and dealing. He spoke to Robert Diaz with the intention of bringing in Joshua Franco, the WBA champion, and that would have been a really good fight too. But he had a little light bulb moment, and he decided he was going to speak to Eddie Reynoso. And after he did, Eddie Reynoso confirmed that his clients would be ready, and within 48 hours, they agreed. What was a terrific spectacle. Julio Cesar Martinez, El Rey against Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez, with the winner, of course, potentially fighting Sonny Edwards. There was a lot of talk of Sonny Edwards fighting Martinez, attempting to avenge the defeat of his brother. Well, Sonny Edwards is going to be fighting Mohamed Wasim, so we could see these as a couple of semi-finals perhaps, and it really does whet the appetite, and it really does throw the cat among the pigeons. We're going to see some terrific fights and potentially a Fight of the Year candidate. Moving on from that, Ben Shalom and Boxer have signed Florian Marku. You know, when this news broke that Eddie Hearn was going to be leaving for DAZN and Sky Sports could move away from boxing, or this could be a nail in the coffin for Sky Boxing, I came out and I made a video and I was explaining some of the things that Sky could potentially do. And among those things, apart from signing guys that were prospects that you'd want to build up for the future to create future stars and exciting fighters, I've always felt that they should have gone for a foreign talent like David Lemieux. And I always felt that the Chris Eubank Jr. versus David Lemieux fight could have been built up fantastically well, for instance. That's just one example. But to bring about exciting knockout artists, as well as big ticket sellers that perhaps have football fans behind them or a country's fans behind them, and they could bring exciting fights, and that these things would really capture the imagination of the boxing fan, guys with personalities. Well, Florian Marku falls into that latter category. This is a guy who has a real following behind him. He does, of course, have a background in kickboxing and MMA, and he is an Albanian star. The Albanians love him. He was born there, but he was raised in Greece. He moved to Greece and had a career there, so he's got a Greek following as well. And he's building up a British following too, because he's great fun to watch. He's got a lot of intensity in the way that he interviews and the way he conducts himself and carries himself, and he seems to want all that smoke. He's been calling out everybody. He wants Conor Benn. He wants everyone. And this is the exact type of fighter Sky need if they're going to continue to push. Because, listen, if we're talking about talent for talent, Sky's roster is not going to compete necessarily, not in terms of depth at least, with the likes of DAZN and Top Rank. Yes, we know they have a couple of marquee talents. You know, they have the likes of Josh Taylor. But generally speaking, it's not going to be quite as deep. Whereas these are the little gaps you fill in a manner that really brings attention to the sport. Marku's not only a very talented fighter, he's a guy, like I said, with a great personality that you want to watch. So this is a really good move for all involved, I believe. Let's see how that develops. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Lennox Lewis as well. He gave an interview with Spencer Fearon and Tunde Ajayi, and he speaks about a whole bunch of stuff. Most of it is about his own career, his own mindset and things like that. But he touches upon the modern game too, and he talks about Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, and he's asked, what do you think he should do? Now, Tunde Ajayi has always been a proponent of the idea that he has to approach the fight in the way that Anthony Yarde approached the second fight against Lyndon Arthur. The exact words were, he's got to harass him. He's just got to move in there and just start putting it on him. Well, Lennox Lewis, without being prompted, came up with that same theory. He said, listen, he's just got to have to go out there and turn it into a fight. He's got to get at him. This is how I would have approached it, he's basically saying. Now, who am I to agree with a man who is arguably the best heavyweight of all time, right? Lennox Lewis is in the conversation. He's right up there. But we all do have our opinions. And I've said before that, for me, it's not as simple as that when you're facing Alexander Usyk. Believe me, a lot of guys would have tried to just rush Alexander Usyk. He keeps you resetting with that movement. His head movement is superb. And he's a fantastic mover in and out. He can get on the back foot and be evasive, or he can start using that head movement in that Manny Pacquiao-esque manner. And I know some of you might be raising an eyebrow to that. What are you talking about, Chris? He's nothing like Manny Pacquiao. All I'll say is go back, watch the preview I did for the fight, the Joshua Usyk fight, and look at some of the footage that I was showing, and you could see exactly what I'm talking about. He's a very difficult man to just try and rush. If you just try and rush him, you're going to be walking onto shots. He can slip inside, outside, and land big shots. He can get on the back foot or the front foot. He's very, very competent all round. So the question I have is there a lack of understanding from Western boxing culture of Alexander Usyk's game? Check out that video and let me know what you think. Is this a problem? Do the likes of Tunde Ajayi, Lennox Lewis, people that are great boxing men, right? A lot of people that are great boxing men have said the same thing. He needs to get on him. He needs to use his size. He needs to really go after him. I'm not saying they're necessarily wrong. I personally do not believe that is necessarily the best approach. I think to beat Alexander Usyk, he's going to have to mix up a whole bunch of things. To start off with, he's going to want to lead Usyk onto shots, which means keep your base below you as you back up. Lure him in. That doesn't mean you move back quickly in a panicked manner whereby you're reaching for shots when you try to get to him because he's on the edge of range, or you're leaning beyond your back leg so that you're not in a position to counter. Your base has to be solid below you. You have to take short, narrow, shifting steps, ready to rotate with him and punch with him as you step back in. Lure him onto that right hand. This is something that Tony Bellew had a lot of success with. Now, you can't just go with that approach, of course. You've also got to mix it up, and that's the key here. There are going to be points where you have to break his construct. I've also been saying this from the beginning. So as you're moving backwards, luring him in, at points you're going to change that, and you're going to move forwards. That way, you are going to bring him into range. It's kind of like, imagine somebody's chasing after you, they're running after you, and all of a sudden you hit the brakes, they're going to crash into you, so to speak, right? Well, that's the same thing here. As you're luring him in, at points you switch it up and you move forward. You don't overcommit. It might be a single shot. If you can get close enough to grab him, to lean on him, try and break his construct, mix up luring him in with fighting like the big man. Change your patterns just like he does. This idea of let me just walk through him, I don't think will work. But like I said, I'm not Lennox Lewis, right? And I haven't trained a guy like Anthony Yard to go and have the success that he's had. So maybe I'm talking rubbish. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe tactically you agree with Lennox. That's totally fine. Let me know what you think down below. Moving on from that, what is Tyson Fury thinking? I mean, I get that he likes to be unpredictable and stuff like that, but there has to be a method to the madness, right? You can't just willy-nilly put out messages without even thinking about the potential impact of these things. Does he want to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship or not? Because if he does, what makes sense is for you not to embarrass Anthony Joshua into thinking that the step aside would be a cowardly move. He's put out an Instagram story to say, will the bum step aside? A, yes, he will. B, no, he won't. Or C, I'm injured. Why would you do that? You want AJ to think that it's acceptable for him to step aside. If he thinks, no, I can't do it. Too many people are going to be calling me a coward. They're going to be trolling me. I can't do it. I've got to take the fight immediately. Then that takes you further away from fighting for the undisputed title. He then put out another Instagram story to say, get it on, you pair of cowards, fight or F off, and he's copied them both in. I don't understand the logic here. Now, Dillian Whyte, who he supposedly is not bothered about fighting, put out an Instagram story to say he wants an effing war. That's all he wants. And the Gypsy King, Anthony Joshua, he's not bothered about all the he said, she said, he just wants a war. And the Gypsy King put out another Instagram story to say, good man, let the wars begin. What wars do you want, Tyson? I don't understand the logic. Do you want to fight for undisputed? If so, why are you trying to put AJ in a position where he cannot accept the step aside? If you don't want the undisputed, then what do you want? If you really want the wars with Dillian Whyte, then why are you not giving him a percentage that he's more deserving of? It's really baffling, man. I don't know what he's playing at. Yes, I get everyone's going to say to me, it's Fury's mind games. A mind game has to have a purpose. If a mind game doesn't have a purpose, it's not a mind game. It's you just being silly. What's the motive behind this? It's baffling, man. Sometimes you just think that he doesn't know what he's doing and he just puts out a story for the sake of it. But he's got to sit down and start thinking a little bit more strategically. He's very close to achieving something historic. He can't jeopardize it with his own mouth. It would be silly. Let me know what you think about everything we've spoken of. Chat to you soon, everyone. Take care. God bless.